I think we're right here. So the basis for who we are, it's the connection within and the connection with others. So as we were babies, and this is the photograph of me and my son. He's 10 now, but it's the first time he smiled at me. I remember that vividly. And probably he's there just over a month or so. And so some of the neural pathways and his whole system, not just nervous system, the whole system created that connection between us. And so as he's recognizing me and he's clearly enjoying my presence and my touch and holding and the eye contact and facial contact, all of that, all of these neurological pathways. Equally, what is happening to me and for me, I'm flooded by oxytocin and some other chemicals that are regulating and creating this bonding and attunement and connection. And as this connection has developed over the years, sorry, this is... As this connection is being developing over the years, also my own inner connection has developed differently. My own relationship with myself and with others and with my clients, with my children, my partner, my wife, my family, and so on. And I see that as a dynamic and active process. And please understand that often people believe if you do the course in something or you reach something or achieve particular level of understanding or knowledge, that stays. It changes and it doesn't necessarily stay. It requires more engagement from us and more development. So connectedness, and for some of you, this language might be a little bit new. For some of you, you might be familiar with this, but I just want to give you a summary of some of my experience and work with Stephen Porges and Gabor Mate and some other guys in this field. So connectedness enables co-regulation. Co-regulation enables self-regulation. Self-regulation enables coherence, and coherence enables health. So just to unpack that, because some of you might be working in the field of trauma, of therapy, and relationships, and so on. And the main point and focus of any therapy is to develop self-regulation within the client. And that's easier said than done, but that's the aim. If you don't have a basic foundation for self-regulation, which is co-regulation, which is that co-regulation is regulation with another. So this is the basis of co-regulation. This is the basis of self-regulation, where you are seen by someone, or you touch someone, you connect with someone, and you're received. And that's how that's what we do for the rest of our lives. If you look at your own life, this is exactly what you're doing. You're touching someone or something, and you've been touched by someone or something, but not just physically, with all of your being. Okay? So this biological imperative, as Stephen Porges will call it, it's connectedness. Because then at the basis of self-regulation is co-regulation, which stems from that connectedness. And in order for us to be healthy, you have to have a coherence between 100 trillion cells that are within you. 100 trillion cells are regulating right now as we sharing this experience together. It's extraordinary. It's a spiritual experience. I always say that. I always feel that. But coherence, and coherence means optimal functionality and connection between systems, and we have a number of systems within us. So in order for this whole body mind system to perform well, to be optimized, to function, has to be coherent. When incoherence happens, then we get ill, unwell, diseased, etc. And there are many scientists that have done a lot of work on this, and you can look at the work of Emoto in regards to water, coherence of water, and you can see the patterns in relationship to the emotions, to toxicity, and so on, how they change. And majority of our body, it's fluid and water. So, but do remember, connectedness is the basis of all of this. Okay? So the body needs to co-regulate behavioral states through engagement with others. And this connection here regulates my state, behavioral state. So I feel peaceful, I feel happy, and there is more coherence. If I'm violated by someone or something, or neglected or abused or invisible to my carer or parent, clearly my behavioral state will be dysregulated. Then the co-regulation will not be present. Self-regulation would be extremely difficult, and then coherence within the system will be quite challenging. But it goes further. We go further to say that connectedness is the ability to mutually, synchronously, and reciprocally regulate physiological and behavioral states. And that's also the word for that exists, and it's called attunement. So we have attachment, we have attunement, and we have bonding. So these are the states that we actually develop here. So we have connection, but then we are tuning with the smile, with the gaze, with the prosodity of my voice, of his voice, of touch, movement, all of that. And then that might be pleasurable, and then it might not be. And then connectedness provides a neurobiological mechanism, neurological, biological. So my nervous system state produces different biochemicals. So that's what means neurobiological mechanism. It provides the link to link social behavior and both physical and mental states and health. So depending on my neurobiological state, my behavior will be affected by that, and my physical and mental and emotional state will be connected and affected by that, and equally my health. So again, at the basis of all of this is connectedness. I'm hoping this makes sense. In case it doesn't make sense, please send some questions, and I'm going to pause later on for any questions, and so we can go. I just don't want to have the monologue, but I'm hoping this makes sense. So here, synchronicity and reciprocity are really, really important with this attunement thing, because often I have mothers, young mothers especially, coming in and saying, oh, my child doesn't love me. She doesn't respond to me. and that is can be quite traumatic for a young mother, especially, or any mother. And the father as well, because often you'll see fathers feel quite neglected and abandoned in the first months, especially because mothers are really not available because they have their hands full and they don't even know what's going on in the new dynamic of the relationship. Um, this is sorry about this because each time someone comes in, this thing appears. So these synchronous and reciprocal reactions are fundamental because our nervous system craves that. Yeah, so that bidirectional response and regulation is constantly present. So that's with the child, that's with the partner, that's with anyone. Like your nervous system expects if you send someone a text message or email or whatever, you do expect a response. So that is kind of a reciprocal expectation of this expectancy of someone's response. And often people get very upset because they did not receive an email immediately. And some people don't look at the emails all the time. I don't have time to look at the emails, and I'm not always in front of the computer to look at the emails. Or even if I'm in front of the computer, I definitely don't have that function that shows me each email that arrives. So because it does disrupt my own process of studying and developing and working, etc. But not to go into too many details, but to understand. One of my teachers was talking about this. If you get triggered by someone not replying to you immediately, either with the text or as you talk to them, if they don't look at you and then nod their head, so that's the expectancy of the reciprocal reaction. And if you really get triggered and upset by that, that is unresolved trauma with a very, very early developmental state. That attunement, that co-regulation was not present sufficiently at the time. So you need to work on that. Most people will simply be okay that someone is talking, but you can cook at the same time. You can do other stuff. I don't need to look at you exactly without even breathing, just to acknowledge that I'm here for you. And some of us, including myself, had a really difficult time quite early with that. I really needed a huge amount of attention. But some of us did have serious early traumas, and that does affect later on. So just a little suggestion to be aware of that. So physical and psychological states have the same root in nervous and physiological systems. Okay, so if your nervous system is regulated, meaning it's balanced, you are in a decent state. You are, as we call it, in the ventral state most of the time, and able to return to that state, and we should be aiming to really return to that ventral relaxed state as much as possible. Then your other physical and physiological states and behavioral states would be better. Do remember humans need others. Okay, again, that connectedness from, as they say, from cradle to grave, we are bound by others. And then biological basis for social behaviors. There is a great work from Mirenhofer. Regulators of physiology are embedded in relationships. Okay. At certain stages of your life, you might not be in a relationship, or you might not, you might be alone. And that's really useful, beneficial, and really beautiful for you to develop your own inner relationship with yourself. because sometimes that's exactly how we create reality for us ourselves. And some of us, didn't have enough of that base co-regulation, and then we learned and then developed certain things, and then we needed to be on our own to embody this and then work through that and evolve and so on. So just being aware that it's not always necessary to be in a direct relationship with someone all the time. As a matter of fact, it can be, challenging and not really beneficial for one's own development. And so, spending time on your own also, it's really, really important. Okay. Um, there is, I think it was Hess, the Nobel Prize winner on the scientist in 1949, I think it was, and it speaks about connection as unbroken unity. I really like that. Unbroken unity, and this image, it's a live image of your fascia or my fascia, of our fascia, human fascia, taken by Professor Gimberto, and speaks to the fact that within us there is this unbroken unity, this interconnectedness with all systems, all tissues, everything. So there is no separation internally. And the more you work with the body and you more understand and perceive your own body and other bodies, you become more aware of that. And so that basis of relationships with others than with oneself starts to develop and create this space within. That's the title of today's sharing. So again, dyad mom and baby, there is a co-regulation through reciprocity and synchronicity between them. And as I mentioned before, as mom is regulating baby, baby is regulating mom. And I mentioned to say that, sometimes baby does not respond the way mom would like to receive the response. She would like baby to be more engaged, and sometimes baby is not, and that is distressing for baby. Sukata talks a lot about this. Sukata is another scientist. She's Stephen Porges' wife, and she's an expert on oxytocin. And she talks about this social engagement and social bonding, and this kind of play between a mother and a baby, and a father and a baby, and between humans and mammals in general, but us humans are specifically have a different. We are more vulnerable in this, and we need more time to bond more than any other mammal on the planet. So, and different neurological pathways and physiological pathways respond differently. Just for us to be 12 months, unable to stand upright and develop all the structures of the body, but the brain as well, because the brain is developing during that time. It's a unique to humans. So that complexity is quite significant and needs to be respected. And some people want to hack into this. They want to Neuralink into that. They want to ask for some other help from some other intelligences, artificial or natural. But just follow this. This has been in the process of evolution for billions of years. I mean, really, we don't fully understand and we already want to hack something. I really prefer to have some knowledge or deeper knowledge of something before I try to correct it or change it. And within the polyvagal theory, we do know that some of these systems of social engagement, they are developed in the brain stem, particularly in the nucleus ambiguous, which is a ventral frontal part, and then you got the dorsal vagal nucleus as well. And these things are really important because, as we'll see later, um, that sense of bonding and development and the space between people and within kind of changes. And one of the main aspects of that connection and this space within and these shifts is safety. Okay. So, um, how you would co-regulate with someone if you feel safe with that person. That really is the basis of most things. And our kind of uh, imperative is to work towards the safety and not just feeling safe, but predicting safety. This is really important because our brains, one of the main functions of the brain beside movement is prediction. Brain predicts your states of safety, optimization of oxygen, etc. And from all of that, our behavior stems, and then feelings, sensations, emotions, etc., etc. So, um, so I'm going to add something about this neural love code, and that makes or breaks the relationships, and and that neural love code is actually founded in very early childhood. So that was that attachment, that was that attunement, bonding. So, and then later on, as we develop more social engagement, and then that becomes social bonding, equally and simultaneously, safety, proximity towards others, contact with others, and bonds are created. So that is part of the social engagement and social bonding. But the overall layer is the safety there. And what often we find that people don't really have full understanding of themselves. And then so they seek in other unconsciously obviously that sense of safety in order to feel safe, to feel loved, and to know themselves. And I hear a lot about the self-love and all of this self-care, and it's great, but if there is unconsciously, neuroceptively, as Porges will say, that the foundations are not there, it's quite difficult to do that and to consciously create structures within your brain, because consciously would engage different parts of the brain. Then they would have to sink deeper into the more limbic emotional states, and then sink deeper again into the brain stem from which some of these nuclei and reactions stem from, these um, unconscious reactions. And we have to regulate that, and we can create that as well, but it's a long process for some people. And some of us body workers and people that work with trauma, we have some of the capacity and ability to speed up the process a bit. No 2-day master course and the mastery of anything in a weekend, or in a few months or whatever. These things take a long time, and quite rightly so, because your whole nervous system, your body is developed over years like this. So it's ungrateful to expect, oh, I'm going to shift something overnight. Certain things I'm working for over 30 years, and still um, I get triggered still. With massive awareness that I have, but still certain scars and certain pathways and certain patterns are present there. They don't control me as they used to, but um, they are present. Um, I'm hoping you can hear me, because I actually, on my screen, I can see myself, but just.
It's okay.
Okay, good, thank
It's a
you.
better connection now.
Okay, great. Um, So closeness doesn't equal safety necessarily. So we might be in jumping into relationship without, having knowing our body and emotions and the deeper cues. Cues are kind of a signs. And most of us have done that. We got attracted to someone. There was something there, and great. But very rarely we are grateful for that maybe deep connection. We want it more, and then we get disappointed that that does not relate to what we expected. And it's not other person's fault. It's our own fantasy or construction of particular ideas that person should fulfill, but that person is their own person with their own history and different ideas. So attunement again between others and connection and that bonding, it takes time. And you can't bond with everyone. You can't be intimate with everyone. I mean, you can't be liked by everyone. So and so this is where intimacy comes. Intimacy is not necessarily sexuality, and intimacy is kind of a feeling safe and relaxed in the presence of someone. Now, this really is kind of when you're more safe and relaxed without necessarily talking about it, but you just feel your whole sense, your nervous system is relaxed. You have the perception of safety, of support, and resourcefulness with another human being and trust. That's when intimacy is deeper. And that obviously varies because another person might not be always available for you. They might be in their own process, or they don't feel, what your needs might be, etc., etc. So, but yeah, intimacy is a beautiful thing, but it's a verb that needs to be developed. It's not a noun. It's something that it's changes and it's dynamic as well. Also, your own need for intimacy and how you perceive intimacy is also different and changes with age. So seeking a relationship but not feeling safe and happy within your own body blocks the intimacy, proximity, and bonding. And these are the three main levels within a relation: intimacy, proximity, and bonding. Okay. And this is why I'm so big on space within and working with your own body, because if you work on your own understanding of who you are, or of your own patterns of feeling your body as you are, appreciating your body as you are, these are the basis then for any intimacy, proximity, bonding, and relationship. And so, just to give you some of the exercises that I used, and you can just observe how your body responds and feels, what sensations and emotions you have in your when you feel safe around someone, but also when you feel unsafe around someone else. And when you are physically close to someone, and when you're physically away from someone that you enjoy being close to. So your body does respond all the time to this stimuli. And because we are very busy and we don't pay enough attention to some of the body states, how they change, how it changes. Oh, gosh. Sorry. We don't pay attention to this. And that's when you do not develop that deeper connection with your own understanding. But when you do that, then you can communicate with the other person. You don't need to violate yourself or violate others in order to fulfill particular needs, especially if the need is unconscious need without really being aware of your own need. Okay. Being touched and touching another person, how does that feel for you? Because I teach touch and I love touch, and touch is, you know, everything for me, but not just touch with your hands, but touch. Like right now, what I'm doing, I'm touching, my voice is touching um, those instruments in your middle ear that transmit a vibration and they send a message to the brain. Your eyes, the retina is receiving the photons that you're seeing me right now and what I'm presenting. That's something is touching you. You see, that's my words might be touching your heart or your soul or something. You know, the touch is in many languages, it's very similar as well. So that's what I mean by this is what I mean by touch. But right now here I'm talking more about the touch, the physical touch in this third point, but also be aware of touches is a lot greater concept. And then how you feel in a social relationships. If you're somewhere out there, how does that feel for you? If you're in a restaurant, in a gathering, and you know, so all of this, just feel your body how it is. So it's important to position yourself in some of these situations and just gently feel how's my body responding. And you learn there is nothing that you have to do. There is not, you don't have to behave in any way. Just try to be honest and just spend, I don't know, 30 seconds, 1 minute feeling that. You don't need to go out in a, in a restaurant and spend the whole night elaborating what you're feeling or not, you know. So because you already do that. This is already happening for you. All of these kind of dynamic shifts of changes, movements, gesture, your posture changes all the time without you even doing that consciously. But just bringing more awareness into that, it would really, we call that vertical alignment, that will really help a lot. Um, so learn to allow your behavior to regulate you. Um, and this is mainly through movement. I would suggest that there are a number of ways. So if you have a particular feelings and sensations, um, you can change them by movement. Okay, so feelings of despair or any emotion are recruiting the neural circuits that with movement you can override. So if I'm feeling frozen and upset and fearful in sitting, you stand up, you move, you touch your body, you engage, you recruit. That's the kind of more technical word, recruit, kind of engage, do something. Those engage those neurological circuits and pathways. And it's quite obvious what I'm saying, but sometimes working with the clients, you can actually ask them to do something if they feel distress or they feel dissociation, and you'll see how that shifts for them. That's why we talk about the grounding, that's why we talk about containment and so on. But some of these simple things, like self-touch, breath, rotation of the head, standing up, stamping your feet, all of that. These are really, you're engaging your whole nervous system, you're engaging, changing those baroreceptors, the vascular processes in the body, the heart fluctuation, all of that. And clearly that will affect your biochemistry as well and emotions. Level of reciprocity changes and the quality of giving is affected, of course. And mainly in connection with another person. So as we talk about here again, there is a element of this social engagement between a mother and a baby, and how deeply ingrained the neurological affect is that you care for a child, but then that there is a response, and is learning that you can recruit these neural circuits later on in life. If people have difficulty doing that, then those very early structures and movements and the circuits have not been fully developed. So just appreciating that and understanding and maybe relating to a client or to yourself, and then working with it. It's not a life sentence. So feeding as a gesture of care and social engagement is often overlooked and reduced to more feeding, food feeding. So, and I call that nourishment. So nourishment with the breast milk or other foods, it's important. But that nourishment of that space in between and that connection, the holding, sound, and some of you fed the baby, and baby will make sounds while being fed sometimes, and then that there is also a connection with the mom. It's quite magical, beautiful thing that happens. So, and sometimes nipples might be damaged and bleeding, and that's not the most beautiful thing for a mother. And that, for example, can cause the repair, a rupture in that baby will be nourished and mother will kind of crave that connection, but will be in excruciating pain, and the baby will feel that in some way and internally could not quite process why this doesn't feel right. And that then translates into other bonding and relationships in the future as well, including sexual relationships later on. Um, Porges will talk about mammalian physiological regulation is trans-species regulation, and humans included as well. So some of these connections and bonding within the mammalian kingdom, they include other mammals as well, but particularly humans are more vulnerable. And this rupture and repair dynamic, it's really, really important. So I'm realizing I prepared a lot here, and I realize I wanted to. Let me just go a little bit faster through this. So two phases of co-regulation: facial expressions, gestures, and prosodic vocalization. So as we connect with our carer, we usually receive the facial expression and give and gestures and prosodic vocalization. All of these aspects recruit and stimulate the particular cranial nerves that affect our parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus nerve in particular. And that's how we regulate and we develop capacity to self-regulate as well and be in the world. Okay? But there is another element here, a deeper element, and it's called immobilization without fear. There is a great talk between Porges and Berselli on this, because Berselli really stimulates this spiritual element and this kind of a surrender to something bigger than yourself, while Porges, it's kind of relating more to a neurology in the human body, and somehow they met in between immobilization without fear. And I really like my own interpretation of that immobilization without fear in reality is in this deepest trust, safety, and surrender towards others. The male have more difficulties with doing that because of the physiological architecture, while women also have challenges with that, but they because of their architecture, physiological architecture, they are designed, they have to, if women is giving birth, for example, she has to let go. It's not just about pushing. There is a moment when you just drop. That's one aspect. The other aspect is in sexuality as well. If woman is unable to have a vaginal orgasm, that is a sign that she's not fully relaxed. And you got 50%, more than 50% of women can actually climax vaginally. They have to use clitoral stimulation. And there's no judgment to that, but it's awareness that I'm not fully relaxed within on my own body. I don't fully know my body. I'm not fully appreciating my own body, etc., etc. So, um, and immobilization without fear recruits that dorsal vagal nuclei in the brainstem that helps you relax, because that immobilization with fear, which is very common, you're going to freeze basically. But immobilization without fear, you drop, you surrender to your partner, to the beauty of the world, to whatever, and that produces very different hormonal cascade within you. Um, so, and that's the state that supports the health, growth, and restoration. Uh, um, it also optimizes the ability to rest, relax, digest, sleep, and perform other bodily processes, enables feelings of trust, safety, and love. And yes, so it is a challenge for all mammals, particularly for humans, to immobilize because you become more vulnerable. But knowing that, that yeah, I love to surrender, but it's difficult, for me. And I think for most of us as well. And there are moments in our life where we have that safety and that bonding and that connection where you can do that. And it's not necessarily just sexuality. There are also through therapy, through treatments. You see, sometimes in TRE, there was a deeper connection and immobilization that you just let go of everything. I mean, I love this method because, and I teach it because of some of these deeper, profound spiritual experiences I had through them, and I led people through that. There were other um, treatments like doing in water, like there is Watsu or poetry in water that some practitioners work with. I particularly, you connect with these deep waters, primordial waters within us. And I'm going to do that in Denmark in September. I'm going to offer that as a small retreat because here in Italy I've done that in the past, and it is a huge amount of work and quite difficult. It can be quite, but it's just profoundly beautiful work, really, where someone can relax so deep that they yeah, I'm not going to go into that now, but you kind of stop breathing as well. You have a breath, one breath every minute or every 2 minutes without actually any effort, and you just really sink into that depth of your own space. And it's a rare gift to give this to yourself. And then your availability towards others, it's quite different. Um, so. Um, So important thing here is that in order for our body to be healthy, we need to give up vigilance and relax and immobilize without fear. But most of us are hypervigilant, and for good reasons as well. I mean, living in a society that you are in great uncertainty, under pressure most of the time, and you kind of uh, develop this unconsciously. Um, So immobilization without fear releases oxytocin. My releases a lot more. As a matter of fact, yeah, I'm gonna share with you something else on cortisol as well. And so release oxytocin brings the body into health, rejuvenation, and repair state. So the health, growth, and restoration. I prepared this video for you, but we're not going to have time to watch it. It's Sapolsky talks about his experience with he spent don't know how many years or decades working with a particular group of monkeys, and then he saw some particularly special event where the society of that group changed and they transformed their own deep structural patterns. And I use that in some of my modules when I teach. But it's a great, and I'm going to send this as an additional resource for you afterwards. But it is quite incredible. So if monkeys can do it, why shouldn't we? Oh, a lot here. So let me just add something else here. Cortisol facilitates mobilization because we talked about immobilization so far. And this is where you have more space within your own body, you feel more relaxed, you feel less pressure. Depressed mean you being pressed until you kind of collapsed. That's why we go into depression state, because too much pressure was exerted upon us physically, emotionally, psychologically, or spiritually. So in order to come out of that, it's not always an easy task. It's not a single pill that can shift that. It can help clearly, and therapy can help, but remember you've been compressed with. Gabor talks greatly about this in great depth. But what I want to share with you, that cortisol facilitates mobilization, and often you will hear how cortisol is toxic. We shouldn't be exposed to that, and different researchers, come to particular research with a different idea, and they expect different responses, and often they get what they expect. But through my own work and then working with others, what we found that cortisol is essential. It's a wake up hormone. In the morning when you wake up, your cortisol spike is higher and it should be. The problem is if it's not high, then there are, and it's obviously related to testosterone, to the range of other biochemicals within you. The morning erection for both male and female, it's actually caused by cortisol spike in the morning. So if you feel horny in the morning, that's a good sign. If you have erection in the morning, that's a great sign. So don't, and both for male and female. So if you follow some of my work, you see the clitoral and penile structure is very similar. The clitoral is more complex, but it's stimulated by the cortisol. So it's the mobilization there. So when you're mobilized and you are fighting under stress, under trauma, then the cortisol, especially long-term cortisol, will become toxic. Yeah. But if you're mobilized in play, you're joyful, you engaged in a playful activity, then cortisol is nurtured. And both Sukata and Porges talks about this, and it's very, very interesting aspect. So aspect of sympathetic and parasympathetic regulation is fundamental. We can't and should not be always relaxed and chill, and then neither should we always be engaged and stressed and active. So that kind of a pulsation, natural pulsation of relaxation and contraction, opening and closing, all that's a natural pulsation, and some of us have different genetic and epigenetic structures and different needs. In different parts of your life you might need more engagement in other. So listen to that. That's how the more awareness you have about your own body and about your own needs and patterns, then you can respect that more. What's useful to understand that if your early co-regulation was difficult, then you become hypervigilant, you become defensive, and defensiveness interrupts biological processes, interrupts your digestion, ability to relax, to sleep, nervous system, elimination. You might have constipation or diarrhea or frequent urination. All of these things will be your heart, kidneys will be affected, and so on. So, yeah, and if you are in a state of defense which cannot be maintained long term, you will definitely have a crash, and that will affect your system. So, yeah, this ability to um, mobilize and immobilize, engage, be active, sympathetic, and relaxed in active parasympathetic system. This kind of image shows the connection between your spinal cord and sympathetic nervous system on the left and parasympathetic on the right with all the organs. And that's from one of my workshops. We demonstrate how you have parasympathetic branches connected. These are sensory branches coming from the organs towards the vagus and towards the brain. And then you got those sympathetic branches, motor branches of the nerves coming from the brain and spinal cord towards the organs, and this happens all the time. So that bidirectional inner world, brain to organs, organs to brain, that also is regulated all the time, and it depends on the state of your organs. That will affect your mood and brain state, and state of your mood will affect your organs as well. So it's this co-regulation that goes there. Okay, so, and this is the quote that I believe for so many years that the only way for me to survive is to try to stay aware of my bodily reactions and to stay away from my bodily reactions and try to ignore my body. But it didn't work. It's amazing that I'm able to calm myself and feel safe in the body, and I can do that. I have the skills. So it's it's one of the PubMed articles from I think Science, where there was a study done on treatment of complex trauma, and you got the reference here if you want to go deeper into that. Some great work done in 2020, a few years ago. And this is what we do. This is what I'm advocating for people to engage with your body. And do understand it's natural for you to if you've been injured or hurt or within the body or in particular emotions that have been painful, that you're not going to go there because it's too painful to connect with it. But there is no other way. You have to really, the only way is through. And then if you're unable, you ask for help. That's why other humans are there. And that's part of your journey, the co-regulation that initially wasn't there. So today what happened is that my son injured himself. He cut his finger very badly. So, and and that
AI note taker is different than all the rest. It allows
that, and there was a big co-regulation between us there, where he was in pain, he was in fear, he was bleeding profusely. He's not used to that kind of thing. And then, soon as I engaged and I start to deal with the wound and so on, and ask him to breathe, to look at me, he calmed down. And then later on, I explained. He was still in pain, but I explained, by screaming, you're not going to change the injury. You need to kind of be aware, etc., etc. But he wasn't able initially to understand what I was saying, but later on he did, and then he asked questions, and so it was this co-regulation that it is fundamental, and we will injure ourselves. So it's good to be equipped about this. Just for the end, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you something that for me was quite incredible. It speaks about the scale of your inner world that you might have seen this video. If you haven't seen this video, it's really really amazing. So your exploration and my invitation for you to engage with your inner world and outer world as well We can hopefully some
allows you to focus on your meat.
can this guy shut up?
Hi, Cheda, can you hear me? I can't see the video. I don't think anyone else can either.
Oh no. Gosh.
Would it be worth us just copying? Should we copy and paste it into a browser? Then we can maybe all watch it.
Hopefully, yeah. What a shame. Because I keep watching there smiling, but you could not see it. Ah. Okay, let's just do last 50 seconds. So basically,
It is showing now. There is something, a video, but yeah, I can see you're trying to play it.
good you mentioned that. Hold on, let me just maybe just so and I'll send you this. So we are actually at the edge of the universe here. So it's the cosmic web, they call it. So that's what the idea is, that our universe is. So it's going back from the edge of the universe, and watch this, going back to the human body. There's a million light years away. So you've got quasars, you've got the Milky Way, and the planet Earth coming back. And so we're going to San Francisco Bay here, I think, is. And then let's go internally now to the inner universe, there's space within. Chromosomes, DNA, atoms, protons and nucleons, carbs within us. Look at the space within each one of us. Okay. Good. Thanks that someone mentioned that. Anyway, we are over time now, but we started late. And any questions? Okay, so can you hear me now? Okay. So any questions? Let's see. Yeah, you will get the. Yeah, probably the best thing is, yeah, we send the recording over and some of the links. So okay. So the question here, so how do we begin to build a foundation of self-love that is grounded in a healthy unconscious reaction that is, rather than from trauma? So there would have to be healthy conscious reactions more, where we will feel our body, we will feel our responses, we will feel emotions that are present within, and if they align with other, so co-regulating with other in the safety and learning that what is beneficial for us and for the others, these are the basis of building the connection. And then repeating that, and then working on yourself again, and then connecting with others. It has to be, cannot be just on a yoga mat or on a meditation mat. I mean, it does help, but it has to be applied in a human contact. It's great to be with the trees. I live in the nature as well, but that's one aspect of foundation that has to be applied towards others. I love the animals. I've had animals, and but the human connection is different. And we, of course, can have the nature as a biological and the ecological support, and the animals as well. But it's important to have humans as well as a support. And not just for us. It's not just about us. It's about others as well. So to receive and give, that dynamic. Okay. So no more questions. Yeah, so the question is, what about hermits and isolated monks? They still have some connection. I think they are cultivating the inner connection, spiritual connection with the, and I think that's someone's choice. And I also believe that's a trauma response for a lot of people. And I know this for myself when I was going through the hermitage and the isolation, and I spent significant amount of time in some of these spaces and deeper fasts for weeks and on. And it was a trauma response. It was too difficult to be in a world as I knew it, and I didn't have enough skills. And I can see this with many others. However, there are people who are actually their life journeys there, and they thrive and they do great. So, I think as long as you align with who you are and what your purpose is here, and you might change, I think that's a great thing. So, but for some of us, I do enjoy, I spend, as I said, considerable time in doing some of these explorations. And at the time, initially it was okay. But then once I learned about trauma more and I connected with others, working with others, touching others became a lot more fulfilling for me. And I think I was a lot more useful. I'm a lot more useful to the world, helping thousands of people rather than sitting in a cave as I did. So, but yeah. Hopefully that makes some sense. Any other questions?
Yes. Could you say that a baby, when it turns its head away from the mother, would you classify that as self-regulation? The baby is already learning self-regulation due to that bit of overwhelm, so a step back.
Potentially. Depends on the context. So it's all about context. If the maybe if it's a context that she was being fed and then she has enough, that's the sign. Or there could be some challenge that she might feel pain, that she needs to move the head, for example, we don't perceive, or some other stimuli that it's not visible.
So I was
Yeah.
thinking in terms of, gazing and this, this time spent co-regulating. There are times when the baby wants to break away, and my feeling is that that is, or at least, and that is that the child is self-regulating because of the slight sense of overwhelm that is occurring in their body, in their system, and so they turn and then they come back and they come in and out of this, and that's a co-regulating for them.
Yeah, I agree. Often, babies need to do that, and you can see this with even toddlers and older children. I mean, and with adults. I also do not believe that it's the most healthy connection with a child or another human being, just being in their face all the time or being with someone. So that rupture and repair circuits and this interdependency, not codependency, it's fundamental. And that's how this attunement that I mentioned, you attune with others. I love my kids, but gosh, I can't stand them sometimes, it's just, and also I love myself, but I can't stand myself sometimes too. So just being kind of realistic that these dynamic inner movements and outer movements are just part of life. And absolutely. So I think, it's great to see that the baby is regulating like that, and I would agree with you. Absolutely, they would be part of self-regulation and co-regulation. And often you have very disrespectful adults where they will meet a child, and disrespectful is the wrong word, but slightly insensitive or people that lack attunement, I would even say. They meet a child and they go into their face. They start, start producing noises. If you would do this to an adult, on the street, meeting someone, there wouldn't be, it's not the most pleasure, no matter how much you might like that adult or a child. So just gently engaging with another human, I think that's always good, with the animals as well. I see often, I've got the big dogs, and one of my dogs kind of bit someone because he had injury, and this woman was all over him. First time she met him and she liked him, and she got bitten, and just little, nothing major, because he was just told to just stay away. And I think that's rupture and repair, that simple attunement, co-regulation is really, really essential. And knowing your own inner space where you feel overly excited and you just want to hug people and love them, or you feel so upset you want to kill everyone, but just regulate a bit. Feel that, allow that to process through you. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheda, how do you think sort of introversion and extroversion fits into this? Which is something that goes through my mind when I hear this.
Sure. Yeah, there are people. There are different theories on that, and some people relate this to the left and right hemisphere domination, and some people would talk about early developmental stages, and it could be all of that. some of us are more extrovert and some of us are more introvert, and I think by nature. And I think that is worth respecting. Not in our society. I think extroverts seem to have a higher, more success in a way, in some ways, because, how society is governed and so on. But you see a lot of introverts, they work in the background and they make the world go around, rather than. So I think we all have our own space. Also, I know a lot of introverts, when they feel safe, gosh, they can't stop talking, So
specifically in the context of connection, as an introvert, you would probably seek solitude to recharge, whereas the extrovert would seek connection. And everything you've sort of said in the past hour suggests that connection and co-regulation sort of contributes to better health outcomes. So does that mean then introverts have poorer health outcomes because they have a tendency to avoid connection with other humans? Or is it that, that's kind of what goes through my mind when I hear all of this as an introvert who measures the physiological impact of human connection with a smartwatch. So I've been kind of finding this quite interesting, but then at the same time, that's your setting. You don't want to force yourself to have too much social interaction if that overwhelms your nervous system on another level. There's other things that go on there as well.
Yeah. Just the basis of us being human is that connection. So now the nuances of introvert to extrovert are different, and you might need more time because, or you introverts might need more time on their own, because of the nervous system needs to recover in a different way, and they don't need to go in the clubs and the bars and in order to nourish themselves. And that is some of the epigenetic makeup as well, and could be some of the early formation. But if you are aligned with that and you feel okay, biologically, biochemically as well, there is nothing wrong necessarily. And it's not necessarily that extrovert, he's always connected, he feels better. So I wouldn't necessarily assume that to be an advantage of extrovert or introvert. I think as long as you align with yourself and it's not necessarily a trauma response that you're shutting yourself down, you're afraid of being in the world. If that is the reflection, I think by discovering that space within and these patterns, that can be very beneficial. So you can shift that. But if that's, you feel very at peace with that, so you or anyone, whichever aspect they have, and we have dominant aspects. So I think as long as you are aware and aligned with that and you feel okay with who you are and your behavior patterns, I think that's fine. I would not classify that as a right or wrong or better or worse. I hope this makes sense. But connection still, I do believe that it is essential. So
yeah, thank you.
Also, there is an element here that's I think a lot of women suffer from in today's society, and that's this notion of being independent and being really, very strong women, and I can make it on my own, and with the all due respect, I kind of really was supporting that greatly. But not just for women in particular, because of the architecture, because of the demands, because of the needs within the society. But if you look at the history of humanity, it's only in the last 30 or so years, 40 years, this has made such a big shift that women have two jobs, and this job to maintain family at home is being so undervalued and so on. But what seemed to be appearing now that women are independent of men, and that I think that's great, having a daughter as well, and having a very independent wife that also depends on me, and we have a really good kind of a dynamic connection. What appears to manifest now, that they are independent from men, but they're very much dependent on the society, of other aspects of society. So technology, other structures within a society. So this independence, so-called independence from others, that doesn't seem to give freedom to women as much, neither men, but they seem to just shift their dependency towards other things. And I think that it's, and from my own experience, that overwhelms a lot of women. And some women are more able to do this, and others less, and and then we have this identity crisis as well, and I think it's all of that. It's kind of exploding because of lack of understanding of your inner space, of who you are really, or lack of connection with oneself, and also asking some hard questions about your family of origin, about your connection with your parents, your ancestral line, and etc. etc. I think all of these are questions that need to be asked, and then you will have probably more clarity on that. And then whatever you choose, and I'm not into either, you should be this or should be that. Do whatever you like. But I think we often just assume certain things, or we are driven and manipulated by particular currents and movements, and we lose ourselves in that. And so my kind of outcry is, with respect to all of that, but let me feel more what's my intuition or inner tuition saying, not necessarily what science is saying. Science might be right, and often we see the science catches up with already the knowledge that exists here, and what we call science has been something developed in last 200 years, but prior to that, for millennia and probably more, human beings functioned fairly well on this planet as well. And then you look at this patriarchal kind of a structure, the scientific knowledge needs to be only respected. So I'm a little bit skeptical with some of these things, which I love science, but I'm like, I like to ask many questions, and I don't want to be over certain and just assume, just because someone says that's because in my life it actually often was the opposite, or it wasn't the absolute truth, of someone claimed the absolute truth, and then the claiming the absolute truth ended up not to be the absolute truth, or not to be truth at all, but they did not take responsibility for those things, and they affected many people and many collectives and countries, and anyway. So hopefully this makes some sense.
Yeah, thank you. It makes a lot of sense. But oftentimes you have to experiment on yourself and what works for you. Like, even whatever science is or whatever theory is out there, I think we all are quite individual in, how we're wired and how we react to things. And it takes a long time to kind of disentangle what is actually you, authentically you, what is societal conditioning, what is your trauma, even if you've been doing that work for a long time. It's hard to know sometimes, what of this is me and what I want, or what is actually some old programming that I still haven't dealt with. Yeah. So that's always a challenge for me anyway. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you. I mean, that really is also we're carrying on, because I can see people are still around, so I'm okay. It's okay to just a few more minutes, but I will close. You see, because I do research multiple disciplines, and I apply this in my life, and what I've seen, the people identified themselves with certain things. I mean, we all do, and I think identification is part of the natural process, and you have to have some kind of a safety. It is part of that safety and recognition of who you are, who you might be. And then people identify themselves with, I don't know, the nationality, country of origin, and the race, I don't know, the continent or whatever. But because I do a lot of work with intergenerational trauma, because I do come from quite traumatic background, and what I realized that my identification with particular origin or whatever was this escape from harder questions, harder, painful questions, actually, that I actually really don't know enough about my family of origin, let's say my bloodline, which, it's significantly important because that is still flowing through you. The experiences of my ancestral lineage, for example. And for all of us, so I would, instead of someone claiming a nationality of thousands of years ago, particular race or particular collective, and I mean, it's useful to have that awareness, but what I realized, most of us know nothing about our great-grandparents, for example. Like someone who lived only 100 years ago, three generations, we had known nothing about. And so what am I talking about, nationality of 1,000 years ago, or race of 50,000 years ago, something 1,000,000 years ago? That really, it's nearly irrelevant. It's not as nearly irrelevant, but it's just useless if you don't know just really 100 years ago, who was your great-grandparent or your great-grandmother from both sides? Because you got 200 people in 5 generations only that supported you, and you know nothing about them. And to me, it was a recent discovery, because I'm going deeper and understanding more about myself, and I'm like, gosh, I spend my life searching and being manipulated by particular movements, political movements, collective, national understanding, history, and all of this. And I think this is all great, but at the expense of not knowing who my ancestry is. And that's now it's my, it's my research, and me and my brother are actually researching into this. And just to say, as I'm speaking to this, I have like a wave of emotion coming, like range of emotion, not really pleasant emotions, because these are the deep waters that not many of us, and I think we should know more. Because if you want to really respect and love and care for yourself, then how about knowing who your great-grandparents were? Great-grand behind them, and and I think, anyway, that's my own little research, not so little, but recent search in the last couple of years. And I think that might be related to the question before, how you get the self-love, but identifying or empathizing to the struggle and the strength of people who came before us, because they carried a lot of trauma, but they also carried a lot of power. And so you really align with, and you receive that we receive the trauma, but we also receive the power, and really being with that power, and I think that's how we evolve. Anyway, I hope I shared this. So it's a difficult subject for me, but it's a beautiful one. So that's probably next 10, 20 years of research ahead. But just to say, So, and it's okay to be uncertain, not to have total certainty, and to be mistaken about something. Even if I was so convinced about certain things, maybe life is not exactly what I thought, and that's okay. Anyway, on this note, I think I'm gonna stop.